Now, producer Luke and I were talking. Steven Gerrard signed a new deal, and it keeps him there until 2024.
Yeah.
Now, you would think he is one of the most valuable assets that the club has in the playing side of things, if not the most valuable. Now, in your time at Palace, did you view managers as important commodities, as top players?
Yes and no. I mean, you know, managers were the ones that would ultimately facilitate the opportunity to be successful via the playing squad that they were in part responsible for assembling.
Yeah.
So it was always a curious thing for me that managers, there wasn't obligations that were so restrictive upon managers being taken from one club to another without huge compensation clauses, and it began to become introduced, and I'd put a clause into Stevie Bruce's contract that sort of caught David Sullivan and David Gold from doing precisely what they wanted to do, which was nick him for nothing. But from that point of view, you know, yes, of course, managers should be in part. I've always been surprised there isn't a sort of transfer market for managers, and that there isn't the inherent. And you know, Wenger made it, didn't he? He was one of the first managers to suggest that he needs to be paid as much, if not more, than the players. And I think there is a case for that. The only thing with managers is that they're a different dynamic than players, because they're not as marketable around the world in the same way that players are, and they're perhaps not as big an influence in terms of outside of football as footballers are. But I absolutely think that if you get the right manager, then they're more fundamental than some of the players.
Oh yeah, I mean, surely Rangers will want to nail Steven Gerrard down now for as long as Steven wants to be there. Well, basically,
I think. I mean, is it not fair to say, whether Rangers like this or not, that it will be universally accepted that perhaps Rangers will be a stepping stone for Steven Gerrard? That's not.
Well, yeah, but you know what?
They're a great club.
Whenever that subject's brought up, Steven Gerrard always says, "Sorry, no, you're wrong.
Well, of course,
this job is everything to me."
Well, of course, so he should do, because whilst he's doing this job, so let's have it right. So
it's people in the media like you that suggest
Let's have it right. Jurgen Klopp leaves Liverpool next month, and Steven Gerrard's offered the job, and he's going to turn around and say, "No, I'm staying at Rangers." He'll be out of the door quicker than a quick thing from Quickland, right? He will be going to Liverpool. But the reality of where he is right now is he's doing a job that, when Rangers gave him a contract of 2024, please don't tell me that was the expectation of that was that they were going to continue to finish second. Steven Gerrard has done the job that Rangers brought him in to do.
Yeah.
They've given him the tools to do it.
Are you impressed by what he's done?
I am in the camp that he's done the job that he was brought in to do. And at the same time, he's had the added benefit, with due respect, to see a marked decline in Celtic. So he's capitalised on that. He has done the job that he was brought in to do. He wasn't brought in to make Rangers finish second any longer.
No.
And I think that to come through the novice stage and to have learnt his trade very quickly, he's been given time, he's been given his head, and I think only in Scottish football could he have been given that time, because with due respect, he has kept up and kept progressing, but he's been afforded 2 years to do that. And I'm looking at him saying, what would be the point of tying Steven Gerrard down to a longer contract, because you've already got him for 3 years. And you don't know what those 3 years are going to look like. And if you go up to 5 or 6 years, and all you're going to do is increase the liability if he fails for what you've got to pay him. Because there will come a time, with due respect to Rangers' euphoria right now, because they've achieved something they haven't achieved in many a year, and I was very much in Rangers camp. I was not happy with the way that they were. I know that they breached the system. I know that EBTs and employment trusts were set up, and all manner of methodologies to overcome obstacles, which made Rangers disadvantage others. I didn't like the way they were handled by the SPO. I didn't like them having to bounce down the league and effective reform. I didn't think that Craig White was an effective person. I didn't think that Charles Green that went in there were good people to run those clubs. But by the same token, Rangers now are in a position where they're going to win the Premier League, the SPL, and Steven Gerrard's got another 3 years to go. So
you don't see any urgency involved here, getting round the table with the other directors at Rangers
what
and
are you
say,
achieve?
Let's nail him down to a much longer contract.
But there's always a possibility.
Doesn't really mean anything, does it?
Well, he's got 3 years. Yeah. It's not like he's 18 months out. He's got 3 years.
Yeah.
You'd like to think that the building now, they've broken the die. They're now going to win the SPL. So now the job is, and they're doing well in Europe. So he's done very well there. The job now is to dominate Scottish football. So next year, if somehow or another Celtic regain their poise and Rangers lose theirs, which I'm not suggesting they will, what are you then saying to Steven Gerrard in a year's time if the role has changed?
Of course, yeah.
You've got him for another 3 years. All you're going to do now is give him more money. Basically, a renegotiation will mean longer contract term, more money at the front end.
Yeah, I mean, what I would say is what they have achieved and the way they've gone about it this season is quite incredible. Because they remain unbeaten at this stage, at this late stage in the season. We're going into March. And they remain unbeaten. They are winning it by a streak. They haven't just. They're not just going to win it. And of course, they're still in the business end of Europe, the Europa League.
And here's where I will differ from you and diverge and converge. Right.
Go on.
I will diverge with you on the basis that they've won a league at Cantor, which, by the way, is a very poor league consisting of a lot of poor sides, and the main rival dropping down by best part of 30 to 40% of their performance levels. Where I will converge with you is that what his achievements have been in Europe, he has to be commended for that.
Yeah.
Because they typically, if you look at the form of these Scottish clubs in Europe, over the recent years, it's not been great. So you have to accept that when he's pitted his wits against bigger clubs from bigger leagues, he's done very well. And that's where I think Gerrard gets the majority of the credit if I were giving him any.